What is going on, and welcome back into Byerly Studios. Who's ready to continue this awesome painting? Yes, we are painting Pokémon Jigglypuff. Now, we've already created DOS Airdry Clay appendages, eyes, as well as some ears and a tuft of hair. We've already completely base coated that in a Liquitex gesso layer, and we're going to continue with the painting portion. Yes, this is the exciting portion where we get to add a little bit of pink color. I may say a lot of pink color to Jigglypuff. Now, as you can see, we got her up on the little tripod there with our black background, and we're going to begin this process by my daughter, yes, my 6-year-old daughter, base coating this in a nice basic pink. Now, this is a very dark pink, and is going to give us a really good base over the existing bleached out gesso color. So sit back and enjoy. My daughter's going to go ahead and kick this off by giving it a really nice base coat. She tends to go very heavy with her brush strokes, so some of those brush strokes will be left behind, but I'll try to smooth this out a little bit later on in the process of the first portion of this video here. But I do want to give her the opportunity to paint sometimes, even when it's not just the details, but just like the base layer and things like that. Just really let her have fun with just putting paint to canvas. And she'll be able to kind of translate some of those skills and brushwork onto her own items as she gets up into higher ages and more technical levels of painting. I really do want to instill a little bit of artisticness in my children, and having the studio and letting them work in the studio in different projects is really allowing them to kind of just find their own artistic style. It's just really cool. She is definitely my artistic child right now, and I just set my time aside just to make sure that all of my children get as much art time as possible. She really did a great job in base coating this with that basics pink there. Now, I'll continue to use this overall basics pink quite often throughout the entire project, but more so later on in the project, I will be using that to kind of blend out into a lighter shade with a lot of titanium white. So just remember, I'm not really using much of this as a pure pink. I will be kind of blending that out with the titanium white throughout the process. I will also be using a lot of rose from Winsor & Newton, but those are the main two pinks that I'll be using throughout the entire process. But I'll just dilute those down, change their color by adding the titanium white there. I will also be introducing a little bit of brown. I do use a little bit of raw umber as well as some burnt sienna throughout the entire process, and I do use a small amount of raw sienna as well. So just be aware that I will introduce a little bit of browns. I remember stating in a previous video that I wanted to make her very rustic. When I refer to her, I mean the Jigglypuff. I want to make sure that she kind of looks like a little bit worn, a little bit weathered. Throughout the animated series, Jigglypuff is always following Ash, Misty, and Brock throughout their series, and I was always trying to get them to listen to her Jigglypuff song. And I really kind of want to instill that kind of like dirty, adventure-like kind of tone into the painting itself. So some of her will have a little bit of brown mixed into those pinks just to make her look a little bit aged and adventurous, as it were. So as you can see, I'm going to begin introducing a little bit of titanium white. This is titanium white in a rose from Winsor & Newton mix, and it's just going to really kind of brighten it quite a bit. Now, of course, this is still very much opaque. All of the colors that I add are very opaque until I start to introduce just a little bit of water for maybe like a little bit of a wash later on in the process. Just kind of smooth things out here and there throughout the process. But right now, I'm just really still using a dry brush technique over the ears and the tuft of hair. And what, again, I just gets left onto those high ridges of the sculpture there around the tufts and the hair puff there. That tuft of hair, however you want to say that, it kind of leaves a little bit of that color behind. And as I build up more and more layers, it'll just look more and more intricate as far as building those layers into more of a bright pink with white highlight type of look to it. So the goal is that more so the ears and the interior of the tuft of hair will have more of a dark, dingy color, and then the exterior and the upper portions of those ears and the tuft of hair will have more of a highlighted, more titanium white type of color. So as we continue this process, you'll see that I'm just going to continuously use the same overall pink mixture, just kind of just nitpicking and just applying color as I work my way around the canvas here. It doesn't have to have a rhyme or reason. I also went ahead and I applied the first layer of titanium white to the eyes there. Those were, of course, made out of the DOS Airdry Clay as well. And I used E6000 adhesive to attach those to the canvas there. Now, you can fill that through the back of the canvas, but that's no big deal. As long as they don't pop off or cause the canvas to warp or sag in a bad way, then we'll be okay. They're not really applying too much weight to the actual front of the canvas there. So I'll continuously work this in here. I'm going to work around the feet, around the arms, and then I'll eventually come back around and I'll kind of cover up that big old spot right there in the middle of the canvas that I haven't got anything on there. I'm also introducing a lot more titanium white as I add this to the tufts and the ears, trying to make sure that I kind of like the overall color. And this is kind of a work in progress. You just work it until you really just get happy with how it looks overall. And you can kind of really start to nitpick and define things as you go through later processes. This is definitely the ugly stage of the process, or at least I feel like it is. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and begin using my brush in more of a crescent type of shape. And I'll slowly introduce a little bit more shadow towards the bottom of Jigglypuff there. And it will definitely really make her start to look more like an orb. It's kind of the same technique that I used to make the fishing bobber lure canvas that I had made, and I'm just really making sure that it looks like an orb, and it has a lot of shape to it. Trying to build up another layer of titanium white on the eyes there. It is going to take quite a bit of layers just to kind of get some build up there, because I did let her paint over those with that bright pink there. So it takes quite a few extra layers just to get the kind of build up that we need, so it kind of hides that away. It's no problem at all. I don't mind applying extra layers of paint. If nothing else, it just adds more durability to those items in those spaces. Introducing a little bit of titanium white just around the bottom there. And this is where I'm going to start to introduce a little bit of brown here. There is a little bit of brown in that titanium white and the pink mixture there. And we're going to continuously work that around the canvas there. You can really start to see it's really starting to cover up that darker pink from behind. And it's going to start to come up to a normal, like what you would expect a Jigglypuff to look like. Now, we're not really introducing a ton of rose yet. No, rose is a much more vibrant, hot pink, as opposed to the other pink that we had used from the Basics brand. So they're just completely different colors. The Basics is a lot more opaque than the rose, but the rose is just so much very. It's so much more vibrant when you add it to titanium white, and it just gives a really nice, rich, hot pink, bubbly, bubblegum type of mixture there. I think the titanium white just really brings it to life, and I really didn't really know how I wanted to describe that color until I thought like bubbly, or like bubbles from Powerpuff Girls, maybe. I don't know. Okay, back to our canvas here. We are going to go ahead and introduce more of a brown here. Now, I really wanted to kind of like accent that shadow there. So I introduced quite a bit more brown here. And now over the layers as we move into different tones of pink to kind of build it up more towards the Jigglypuff usual pink. It will kind of blend this out quite a bit so that line won't be so hard. But for now, I wanted to get that on there and make sure that shadow is there. Applying yet another layer here of titanium white to the eye sockets. As you can see, it's quite a little bit of a process just applying those layers there to the eyes. And they'll really come alive when we add the blues that you're looking for when you think about a Jigglypuff. Here I am introducing almost a Mars black into the ear sockets here. not ear sockets, the ear canals, as it were. Now, I will apply quite a few colors to this, and I will also give these a dry brush later on. Now, these are going to be more of a kind of a brown tone here. I don't really want them to look like they're super hot pink or anything like that. I want them to look like they stand out and they're just recessed quite a bit. And there's really no rhyme or reason why the inner ear would be any certain color. Of course, if I wanted to, I could make them a nice, cool, like teal color, or maybe like a light green or something. Really make them stand out, make them really bubbly. But in this situation, I decided just to really kind of leave it more basic here. So we're going to go ahead and give a Mars Black base just to kind of cover up that pink layer from before. And then what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of a raw umber here. And this is going to really bring in the browns quite a bit. And later on, towards the end of the process, I'll come in and I'll add more of like a ivory black to the recesses of where the ear canals would be going down into the head of Jigglypuff. And it's something small, but it really makes it stand out quite a bit. And if you're looking close enough to it, you will see that there will be a transition between the inner ear canal and the exterior of the ear as it goes up towards like the points of the ears, where you'll find more of a lighter brown color. So as you can see, then at this point, we've jumped in time here. This is a separate session altogether. I did this over quite a few different weeks, and I actually had a spell there where I wasn't working on it at all. And this is kind of where the paint settled after it completely dried. It darkened out just a little bit here, but we do have a nice smooth layer over the eyes here, and now we have a lot to go yet. This is about almost the halfway point over the overall content, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed this. Now, this is majority in 6x speed here, and sometimes throughout this process, as we move forward, I'll jump into almost 12x speed just to expedite some of the little smaller details that aren't really as easily captured by a time-lapse video here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really start to build up some layers over the ears here. This is more so where I'm introducing a little bit more of the browns into the ears here. So sit back and enjoy as we kind of add some more refined details and pinks and highlights to the tufts and the little hair swoop there. Now, if you recall, I did say that I wanted to make her a little bit more grungy, and this is what I'm doing at this point. This is kind of like an in-between between like the base colors, the pre dry brushing, and then moving on to dry brushing later. This is more of like a kind of like a wash. I'm applying this so that it kind of sets down into the grooves where I have sculpted, and this wash is really going to kind of dinge out a lot of these hair follicles and little tufts of hair that I had sculpted into the ears and the hair there. And when I come back over with another dry brush layer later, a lot of this browns will be recessed into those little sculptures. It's kind of changing the overall color of the pinks and the titanium white mixtures that I had put on previously. And it's just going to apply a lot of layers of general color to it before we even go over it with some more lighter colored pinks later. You can see how brown it is there under the light when we zoom all the way out. And I'm also going to apply that to the little toe nail inserts at the very bottom of the feet there. It's really not necessary, but it's just something fun, and it's going to apply just a little bit of a wash to those, so that when we come over with like layers of dry brush later, it really looks cool. Applying that to the outside arms as well, just to kind of make sure that those little divot hands are recessed there. The right hand is going to be holding a surprise later on down the road. A lot of you Pokemon nerds out there will be able to remember what Jigglypuff holds when she sings to people. Hint, hint, it is a black and silver rod with a green tip. But that will be a separate video in this playlist, so make sure you come back later on down the road and check that out. I will also link the playlist for this entire series at the very end of this video, so if you want to jump over to that, you can definitely do so at the end of this. So a separate session here. Now, as you can see, I got some little cool tea lights in the background here. I got these during the Christmas holiday season, and they're battery powered, so I just thought they add a little bit cool accents to my studio here. Now, my lighting right here was not all that great, and I do apologize. I had my light toned down quite a bit, but it's still the same. I still wanted to give you this content and let you enjoy it in its entirety. And as you can see, the brown is still around the top ears and tufts of the hair. And I'm still just starting to introduce more titanium white and the pink rose. They're a very brilliant color combination together, but also very simple. So I'm going back and forth, just introducing color here and there, just trying to create a little bit of diversity across the face of Jigglypuff. But in my mind's eye, I'm always trying to think of myself, how can I make it more orb-like? So when I do apply colors to the actual like circular canvas here, I'm just trying to think about where the shadows of the ears and the tuft of the hair will be coming down the face. And then I want to make sure the bottom of the orb or her belly would be a little bit darker than the top. Now, I'm, of course, going over this with a dry brush now. So I'm going over the ears and the tuft with more of a titanium white and a rose. And it's just going to kind of more so introduce more of that pink there over those existing things. I want to make sure that the ears and the tuft of hair are toned in a brown shade so that they really look like they're kind of up and out there. But at the same time, they need to look like they're like made with the body. So where I've blended the edges of those tufts of ears down into the canvas there, I need to make sure that that's kind of blended so it looks like it's at home already on the canvas and it doesn't stand out too far away from it. And it looks like it's just like completely two pieces of artwork that I just threw together. When you just catch it out of the corner of your eye, you're like, that's Jigglypuff. Man, that really looks cool. You're really not supposed to poke and pick at the fact that the ears and the tuft of hair look just completely different, you know? I hope you understand what I'm saying. I don't know if I explained that exactly right, but yeah. So as you can see here, what is Jigglypuff without her mouth here? And yes, we're going to go ahead and zoom in here. We're going to start by applying just a nice Mars black base to this. We're just going to go ahead and get the silhouette of the mouth in place here before we add any color to it whatsoever. Now, we're going to start off with very basic colors on the mouth. But like I said, Mars black is our go-to at the beginning. Just trying to make sure I get a nice smooth line there. I'm not using any kind of mediums or any kind of Liquitex additives at this point in time to thin my paint. I'm just using straight up paint from the tube and just applying just a nice thick layer here. It's also a layer that's going to allow us just to go over that existing pink base, and then we can build up a little bit of more like reddish tones for the tongue and the recessed mouth a little bit. Here's a fun part, you guys. Let's add a little bit of blue to those eyes. Yes, we're going to start off with a dark blue here. Now, this is more so of a Winsor blue from Winsor & Newton. And I'm going to apply quite a different colors here. I'm going to use some lighter turquoise as well as some pale blue. And we're just going to kind of introduce these in different layers here. But I want to go from dark to light. And then the very lightest will be, of course, titanium white, where I'm adding highlights to the pupil of the eye as well as some glares on the eye. We're going to jump and we're going to go ahead and get that second layer layered in there. As you can see on the top right-hand corner of the second eye there, the paint is having a little bit of trouble sticking to the clay right there over the existing pink. I had to do a few layers there just to get that completely covered up. For some reason, it just wasn't wanting to adhere to that pink layer for whatever reason. It's wanting to come out really thin. Trying to make sure that the recess of those eyes are just in general kind of like a rounded shape. They don't have to be exactly perfectly round to look good. So I'm not trying to get too hung up on that, but I do want them to look pretty good overall. So I'll just kind of continuously work the edges of those until I'm happy with them. And eventually I'll kind of go down to a smaller brush and refine them a little bit more as I apply just a little bit of lighter blues and darker blues over this existing blue base, just to give the eyes just a really like kind of like cool like pupil slash like really diverse spread of colors across the middle of the eye there. I don't want them to be completely one solid color, that's all I'm saying. I don't want them to look just like very basic and very flat. I want them to have a little bit of dimension to them. We're going to go ahead and apply a little bit of a tongue there to the inside of her mouth there. It's going to apply just a little bit of more so of a pink rose and a Mars black base over the tongue there. And I will start to also introduce a little bit of crimson into that as well. We're going to go over the eyes right here with a nice kind of light blue. I believe this is a pale blue from Winsor & Newton, if I recall correctly. And I'm just going over this with a dagger brush here. We're just going to apply just a nice thick glare to each individual eye there. And they need to be roughly in the same spot as if the glare were coming from below on each individual eye themselves. And then what we're going to do is later on we'll come back with a little bit of cobalt blue, and we'll apply just a little bit of highlights to the edges of each of those just to give them a little bit of fun diversity. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of add 2 or 3 pure titanium white highlights to those that just accent them even more. Applying a little bit of titanium white to this outside edge of Jigglypuff there. I really want to kind of accent that. In a lot of the reference photos that I found, a lot of those edges are pure titanium white in a lot of ways, where the pink kind of thins out and there's a little bit of glare on her outside body there. Just trying to introduce that and make sure that the bottom of the belly is a little bit of a darker pink with those browner shades you can see. You can really start to see the overall color tone of the pink Jigglypuff is really starting to come along here, and this is really where the canvas is starting to kick off, and you're just able to sit back and think, that's really starting to look pretty good, I think. I'm applying a little bit more dark pink to the edges of the kind of like the cheekbones there, and then we're just going to kind of work this over and over again until I'm overall happy with how it looks. This is the 12 times speed that I was speaking of earlier. It's really where the time lapse is taking off. Also applying that ivory black to the interior of the ears there, as I spoke of earlier in the video. And then what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and just finish out the last few details, applying a little bit of crimson and pink to the tongue there. Brings that forward quite a bit there. And we're also going to apply a little bit of that crimson to a Mars black mix for the interior of the mouth. It's really hard to spot that, but my goal is that when I do varnish the painting, that some of that reddish crimson and the Mars black of the interior of the mouth will show through ever so slightly if you were to get close enough to it. It's really coming along there. I do apologize. The sun was setting behind me, and I do not have curtains on those windows at this point in time. And then we're going to jump to later on at night when the sun is already down. So we're doing a little bit of jumping back and forth in time here. There's those highlights there, as I spoke of earlier, as well as a little bit of that cobalt blue. It's hard to catch it on the camera there, but it just softens the edges of those glares ever so slightly. And as we finish up this, we're going to roll into some glamour shots, you guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the creation of the DOS Airdry Clay round canvas. Now, this is a Master Touch canvas from Hobby Lobby, and we use Winsor & Newton and one basic pink color to create an awesome Jigglypuff. Later on in the series, we will of course be applying a satin varnish to this, as well as an accessory out of clay, which we will also paint in the same video. So make sure you check out this playlist listed above here, and I will catch you guys on the next awesome video or project. Make sure you subscribe and like. I'll see you later, guys.